If you want to level up your finances without working more hours, the first thing you need to hear is this right here. You see, you are never supposed to work endlessly just to have more income. Money is supposed to be working for you. Millionaires and billionaires understand that in order to acquire wealth, that they need to invest into something one time that's going to pay them over and over and over again. Most people miss that distinction. Most people think that the way to get more income is by putting in more effort, more sacrifice, and more hours, but that's the farthest from the truth. Matter of fact, that's what's going to give you a ceiling on your income. If you want uncapped income, you need to learn how to put infrastructure and systems in place. That way, you can make more money in your sleep than you do on your feet. I'm talking about locking in so that you don't have to clock in. Do you hear me? You see, the mindset that sounds responsible is if I just work a little bit more, if I just hustle a little bit more, grind a little bit more. And that's what I call worldly hustle culture, right? But in the kingdom of God, it's the exact opposite. You get wisdom, the wisdom to implement things that make it easier to get more money in a small amount of time than it will ever be to get a little bit of money over a long period of time. I know it sounds backwards, but once you get into rooms where they're making millions and billions of dollars, you begin to listen up. The fastest, cleanest, most reliable way to make more income is not grinding longer or working harder. It's thinking and structuring way different than what the world tries to tell you. You see, we were brainwashed growing up thinking that we needed to go to college to get a degree, to then be hundreds of thousands of dollars in school debt, to then go work for somebody that doesn't care about us, that only is looking at their bottom line, that no matter if you work for that company for 10, 20, 30 years, you can wake up the next day and they walk you off that job. That's what I call a trap. But if you learn to work smarter and actually put things in position that make money while you sleep, you can replace that income and multiply it 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 100-fold. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most professionals like yourself don't have an income problem. Matter of fact, you already make good income. Your issue is leverage. You're already smart, you're already disciplined, and you're already capable. But the problem is everything you earn right now is tied to you clocking into that 9 to 5, which means you're not present with your family, you're not serving in church, you're not walking out the very gift and calling that God placed you here on this earth. We're not doing that in 2026. That's why you feel maxed out. Not because you're lazy, but because you're operating in a system that can't scale. Let me give you a couple kingdom principles. Kingdom principle number 1. Wisdom multiplies effort. The Bible puts this plainly in Ecclesiastes. If the axe is dull, you're going to have to use more strength. But wisdom brings success. Let me break that down into modern day language. If the axe is dull, you're going to have to work harder and you get tired faster. Now imagine if that tool was sharp, for example, you had more wisdom. Now you work lighter, you work less, and you get more clarity. You get better results than if that tool was dull. That's why you need wisdom. You see, burnout isn't dedication. That's actually a sign that something needs to be sharpened, something needs to be repositioned or restructured. Listen, I had to work 15 hours a day and learned this lesson the hard way. I was making $100,000 months inside of my apparel business, but the problem is that my income was tied to my presence. If I didn't show up and fulfill the orders, the business wouldn't run. Imagine if I packaged that knowledge that I learned inside of my apparel business, I put it into a training, a masterclass, a course, and I taught other professionals how to run an apparel business, and I scaled that digital product or that digital course. Now I can make more money in my sleep than I ever would at that warehouse. That's what I call working wiser, working smarter, making a whole lot of money in a shorter amount of time than clocking in 15 hours a day. I know because that was me 5 years ago. From the outside, it looked like success, and to the world standards, they would measure it as so. But inside, internally, I was bleeding. I was exhausted. I was hating going to my own business. I actually created a cage inside of my own business. Do you feel the same way? Every time you get into that car and you drive to that 9 to 5, you might be being used big time at that job. People rely on you. They come to you for answers. You're getting kudos. You're getting rewards. You're getting elevated. But when you get back in that car to drive home, you feel drained. You're exhausted. By the time you get home to spend time with your family, to have time for yourself, you're mentally checked out. That's not the life that God has intended for you. I remember thinking to myself when I was going through that same situation, if this is what success looks like, I don't want it. And then God whispered to me, it's time to reposition and restructure. Then I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know where you are in your life right now. I don't know if internally you know that you are called for more. You know that God has given you a big calling, a big gift, but you don't know how to pull that out of you. One thing I do know is that God places people in your life for a reason. There's seasons that come and there's seasons that go. There's times when we need to grind it out, and there's times when we've had enough. That was the season that I was in. I was getting ready to walk away from everything when that still small voice told me, Stephanie, it's time to reposition. And I remember being so excited because I couldn't imagine working another 4 years, 15 hours a day, never seeing my kid, although my kid was working with me one room over. Imagine that. You have this booming business where you're pulling in $100,000 months. You pull your kid into the business, and from the outside to the world, it looks like you have a family business that's thriving. But on the inside of the four corners of that warehouse, you never saw your kid because you're stuck in one room and he's stuck in the other. You guys get in the vehicle to go home every single night, and because you're so exhausted, you don't even talk on the way home. You lay your head down at night, you grab a few hours of sleep, you wake up in the morning to rush back to work, and that's your life day in and day out. Let it not be so. I understand there's a season, but you can only take so much, especially when there's a better way to make a whole lot of income than trading your time for dollars. It was 1 year ago when I restructured my business and I dove into my education, and I got obsessed with solving other people's problems. I got obsessed with serving my community. I got obsessed with packaging the knowledge that I knew, and I began to coach people. You guys, 1 year later, I have gotten my time back, and I traded those 15-hour days that I was working inside of my business to now where I only work a few hours a day, and I still make multiple six figures. But the only thing different, I don't have to run off to a warehouse. I get 12 hours of my time back. And now me and my kid get to spend all the time together in the world. I've moved into my dream house, a $900,000 house, because I said yes to God when he told me to restructure the business, when he told me to start all over again. That's a word for somebody on here today. When God tells you to scratch everything, when God tells you to throw everything away, are you willing to restructure and start from ground zero again? When God tells you to break that relationship off, are you willing to walk away? What are you willing to do to obey the voice of God? I need you to hear me, because in this season, you don't have time to get it wrong. In this season, if you have an ear to hear what God is trying to show you and what God is trying to have you implement into your business, you'll be able to see multiplication like never before. Now I've been able to coach hundreds of students, getting results inside of their families, inside of their businesses. And I've been able to bring my kid into the entrepreneurship space to where now he's walking out his purpose and his calling, and he's not working in a warehouse 15 hours a day. I'm talking about generational wealth. I'm talking about not sending our kids to college to go work for somebody at a 9 to 5 to slave away and feel unfulfilled in their purpose. What are you doing to set your kids up, your kids' up for generational wealth? This is what I need you to focus on in this season, is getting one skill that you can master so well, mastering one platform, getting one coach that will be able to lead you and guide you to your next tax bracket. God never designed wealth to cost you your life. And here's what they don't tell high performers like yourself. Time-based income punishes capable people, because you can do it, because people rely on you, because you're good, you're very good at what you do. But eventually, your ability becomes your burden. If your income depends on you showing up like it did for me, you become the very bottleneck in your business and why it can't grow. This is where wise counsel comes into play. This is why burnout hits high achievers first. Not because you're weak, just because you're mispositioned. Easy fix. Kingdom principle number 2. Stewardship multiplies. The same way in the parable of the talents in Matthew 25, one servant was given 1 talent, another servant was given 2, and another servant was given 5 talents. The one that had the 1 talent went and hid it because he was fearful that he wouldn't be able to produce a harvest with it. He wouldn't be able to multiply it. The other 2 servants went into the marketplace and they multiplied the very thing that the master gave them to go out and multiply. The gifts, the talents that God has given you, he is requiring you to do something with it, to multiply it. We are called in this earth to subdue, to dominate, subdue, and to take over and use the very things that God has given us, that he's placed in our hands. What are you doing with the gifts and talents that God has given you? Because when the master came back and found out that the servant that moved in fear tolerated is faith contaminated. The servant that moved in fear, everything was taken from him and given to the one that multiplied the seed. Let that not be the case for you in this season, that God has given you so much wisdom and so much knowledge and so much expertise that you've crushed it in all of the jobs that you've done and you're not doing anything with it on the side. Stewardship means I don't just manage my gifts and talents, I multiply it, I make it grow. God's not impressed by exhaustion because you worked your face off, although that's honorable. He's impressed by multiplication. And multiplication, that requires stewardship. You see, where everything changed in my life is when I took myself out of the system and I created a system that would work when I wasn't present. Better for me and better for the business. My income didn't drop, it multiplied, but I got my hours back. my time back, the most valuable thing that there is. I now wake up in love with my business. Slow mornings, get into my word, get into prayer, spend time with my kid, cook healthy breakfasts, not running off to a job that I hate. And I get to be a present parent. I get to work on the very gifts and talents that make me come alive on the inside because I got my time back. If you want to level up your income without working more hours, there's 3 shifts that matter big time. Shift number 1, stop just earning, learn to multiply. Money grows faster when systems are put in place and people stop straining to do everything and they take themselves out of being the bottleneck. Shift number 2, stop trading your time for dollars, meaning that job that is placing a $50, $60, $100, $200 an hour wage on you, value on you, where they're determining that that's how much your value is, although they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars off of you in profit, but yet they're only paying you $100 or $200 an hour. Stop trading your time for dollars. Start communicating value. One clear outcome packaged properly into a digital asset or a digital offer beats hundreds of hours that you're working, and you'll make a whole lot more money doing it that way, fulfilling purpose, loving what you're doing, and not making somebody else rich. Shift number 3, stop hustling and start structuring. Systems are wisdom that keeps paying you back. Kingdom principle number 3, clarity attracts provision. You see, the word says in Habakkuk, write the vision and make it plain. Clarity scales and confusion fails. When you're clear on what it is that you have to offer, you now attract your dream ideal clients and you don't have to go chasing them. They freeze on your content. They start consuming everything you're putting out there, and you have buyers ready to line up and pay you for your expertise that you've packaged properly. That's what I call wisdom. Provision follows structure. Imagine waking up and knowing that your income isn't tied to your exhaustion, to the amount of hours that you're putting in at that 9 to 5. Imagine saying yes to your life again. Imagine saying yes to your kids. Imagine saying yes to those trips that you want to take. Imagine saying yes to the investment properties that you want to invest in. Imagine saying yes to that spouse that you want to spend time with. Imagine saying yes to that church that you want to serve in more. Imagine being able to map out your own life without having somebody dictate what your schedule is, when you can see your kids, when you can show up at their events at school. Imagine being able to be the pen of a ready writer when God tells you to write the vision out. This isn't about quitting your job tomorrow and putting your family in an unpredictable state. It's about evolving how you earn so that when that income surpasses what you're making currently, you can have the luxury of making a choice and setting your future generations up for wealth. I want you to lean in to what's stirring on the inside of you, that fire that's coming back alive, that vision that is rekindling, because this is your choice, your opportunity to learn a high income earning skill that will change your entire life. I want you to go ahead and visit the masterclass that I have in the description below. It will bless your socks off. It's going to teach you how I've packaged my knowledge and how I'm able to make $1,000 to $5,000 in a day working from home only a couple hours a day. Even if you have no tech skills, even if you have no sales skills, even if you don't know exactly what it is that you would package into a digital product, I got you. Let me leave you with this. You don't need to work more hours. You need a wiser way to steward and restructure the expertise and the gifts and the talents that God has already given you. go ahead and hit that button for that video that's popping up next. When you package what you're learning in this video right here with what you're going to learn in the next video, it's going to multiply the wisdom that you have. I'll see you in the next one.